Why don't we turn the floor over to Lauren? Let's see what Lauren's got for us.
I'm not sure anyone really wants that to happen, but so this week I went to the movie theater because in my state you can go to the movie theater. There are social distancing requirements and other things, but I can go. And I went to the movies and I walked down a corridor where there's the movie screens, and normally between them there's these large posters in frames, and all of them were empty. Every single one down. It was like walking down a ghost town inside a movie theater. And it was really kind of the exclamation point of a lot of the articles I've been reading and a lot of conversations that I've been having with people from around the film community. Movies have become so expensive to produce and to advertise that all the major studios have pulled basically everything off the release slate. They were hoping that Tenet could break the back of the moviegoers and be a success, and it wasn't. And except for some like sacrifice plays, such as New Mutants, which is what I went to go see, really the studios are not interested in putting product that they're going to lose money on. It's important also to recognize that the way films are financed it's not really possible for everything to go direct to streaming. And streaming, for instance, we made a big deal about Trolls World Tour last year coming out and making $100 million in its initial release. The problem is, at the end of the day, that movie lost money. That's reality. That movie lost money. And it lost money for specific producer classes. So you're not going to see everything just get dumped onto streaming. Somehow, some way, it has to get out the theaters. But there's a problem. Theaters need to survive. And how do you survive without product? So they've turned to a lot of indie distributors like IFC and Indeacon and Wells Go America for product. And a lot of smaller films have gotten releases, first at the drive-ins, but now in the brick and mortar theaters. And while that's very, very good, it might speak to the future of Hollywood math, because those smaller independent productions can put these prints on screens at a much more fair profit sharing with the theaters than the big studios ever could, because the big studios produce films for so much more money that they require so much more of a percentage of the ticket.
Right.
So this lockdown and this complete freeze out for the last quarter of 2020 is having some substantial changes, is causing some substantial changes to the way movies are made, distributed, and how you're going to consume them. A lot of films that in the past perhaps would have gone direct to streaming may have an avenue into theaters that they didn't have before, whereas major productions are kind of stuck. I suspect you're going to see Hollywood become a lot more conscious of price, because the hurdle without theaters is a very steep hurdle. One of the big problems too with everyone can say, well, just release it to streaming. The problem with that is it sets a precedent. When you think of the big movie companies, you're thinking of distributors, not production houses. These aren't the people who make movies. These are the people who package films and get them to the theater. Right. If it's not going to the theater, the production companies really don't need those major distributors. So when a major distributor bites the bullet and puts something into the streaming world, they're setting up a chain, whereas they're almost courting their own irrelevance. So you have to understand when people say, well, they should just release it. Well, it's really not an option unless they want to put themselves out of business. Now, there's always going to be a need for the big blockbuster that's expensive. It's always going to be out there. And how those get made and released today and going forward, that's an open question. But the industry has changed substantially and is not going back to how it was. For myself, I hope that means a ton of smaller films maybe get the release they deserve. And maybe Hollywood takes a hard look at whether they should make another $150 million packaged blockbuster like Atlas Rising that is going to lose them 90% of their budget. Maybe this whole thing ends up being a good thing. Theaters are going to have to go to the indies if they want to survive without product, because it's the only way to make money right now. So I want to first, before I turn this over to the panel, I just want to suggest that everyone out there who loves the movie-going experience, just like we were talking before about physical media, if you have the opportunity, whether it's a drive-in, whether it is a mom and pop theater or the biggest chain on the planet, believe me, AMC could use your money right now. They're circling the drain. Go buy that popcorn. Yeah, especially buy that popcorn because that's the only way you're not allowed to wear that you can take the mask off. So buy the popcorn. Support this industry if you want it to survive, but be very ready for changes. So I want to turn it over to Jay for his thoughts.
It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. Someone asked earlier in the chat if we thought comic books would still be around, post COVID. I don't know, man. I think a lot of things are going to be affected by this because all this stuff we're talking about was already like on the downward spiral anyway. Physical media, movie theaters, comic books, all this stuff was not doing good to begin with. I know AMC in particular. I think they're pretty much done, huh?
It's looking bad.
So I don't know. I saw an article, maybe in the LA Times or someone put out just earlier today talking about that exact thing. Will theaters be around? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't. Because I know a lot of places. Lauren, you have theaters open near you. I have theaters open near me. Select stuff. They're doing a lot of because nothing's coming out. They're doing a lot of the older stuff. They're showing. Which is cool. It's like $5. You get to go watch, an older classic. I don't know, man. It's really sad. If they go, I would be really sad. But I wouldn't be surprised either.
I certainly don't want to see the theater become a thing of the past. You're seeing these movies come out digitally to pay for them now. On streaming services, Disney wants you to pay them $30 for Mulan. It doesn't cost me. I see people say that's not that big of a deal, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't cost me $30 for me and my wife to go to the movie theater. We eat before we go. I'm not paying for a $9 Diet Pepsi or Diet whatever. The thing that's interesting, too, is I'm noticing, and it's certainly gotten even more so during COVID, I would think, especially because of the stuff that's been announced for Netflix and stuff. Movies, a lot of these mainstream actors look like they're going to television, which I think used to be a bad thing back then. But you got your Paul Rudds, your Christina Applegate, your Sandra Bullocks doing these Netflix stuff, and I'm assuming it has to be guaranteed good money. They're not worried about box office returns or blah 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 because it could hurt their career. The Netflix model seems to work really good, and a lot of these big actors are going there. But I kind of see that as a positive because let's get them over at Netflix. I don't need to see another Sandra Bullock movie in the theater. Let's get some fresh faces in there. The idea of smaller production companies getting distributed in these big theaters sounds so cool to me. I mean, like we were just talking about Friday the 13th. Paramount didn't make the movie. Sean did. And then they said, let's put this sucker out. Let's put this sucker out and make it something. And look at that. I want my next Friday the 13th. I want that. And I can't expect a major corporation to create that film. So I'm going to try to look at the bright side of things. I want my theaters to open up. They're not open yet. My theaters are not open. But I will not pay $30 for new movies at my house, especially on streaming services that I'm already paying $10 a month for. So I've really got my back against the wall on that. So I don't want to see movie theaters go anywhere. I don't, absolutely not. So I'm hoping this COVID stuff needs to end as soon as it can, and we try to get our rhythms back, because the longer it goes, I think the worse it is. I don't have an AMC theater near me, but I'm feeling for them. I'm so feeling for them.
I'm starting to feel like normal life, is going to be different forever. Like do you think a year from now we'll still be wearing masks? Do you think, is Walmart ever going to be open at night anymore?
I hesitate to guess, Jay.
I hope not, man, but it's what it's looking like.
And all these movies getting pushed back. How long will studios wait for theaters to become full capacity before they say, screw it, put Candyman out on stream for $20? Like and what happens if that happens? If these huge waves of movies do that, what's going to happen? That's what scares me.
What that will do is will disincentivize certain types of movies from being made. Period. Stone, you had something?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, now is the time. Because, look, I miss going to the theater as much as everybody here, I'm sure. But now is the time for drive-ins to make a comeback. now is the damn time. I mean, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were an institution. There was one at every corner. We need to bring them back because, and look, I'm not go into the political climate. I'm not going to say another word about that. I'm just saying that because of that, I don't see this thing changing anytime soon. Maybe for years. Sad to say. I think now is the right time for drive-ins to come back, and people can go in their cars. Social distancing is perfect, and enjoy a movie like they used to. And if they go see a new movie and they're bored, they can make out. So I mean, that is, I think, what we should get back into American society. I mean, I've had negative experiences at AMC. I could care less if they go belly up. I mean, the only theater I care about is Alamo Drafthouse because of what they were able to do with keeping people with their cell phones in check and everything. And of course, the regular chains, they don't care. They just let them do what they want. That's just my personal attitude about the whole thing. I mean, now is the time. I want drive-ins to make a comeback.
Well, I've been to the drive-in quite a few times during this whole pandemic period, and I can tell you that the lot was always full by the end of the night, no matter what they were playing. So I think it's happening. It's just their property is an issue. You can build them pretty quick, but property is an issue. Monty.
I went to see New Mutants a couple weeks back, and when I went into the theater, it was absolutely the most depressing thing I think I've ever seen because there was nobody in there. And I know from growing up, when my parents used to take me to the movie, I mean, dude, it was seriously, son, it was so depressing, man. But like growing up, I love the theater experience. I love going to the movies. What I hope. Here's two ways I feel about this. I feel kind of sad because it looks like theaters are going away. And when I hear people say stuff like, oh, I could just stream it at home, that's not the same thing. It does not meet the same experience of like when my father took me to see Batman with Jack Nicholson and to see those opening credits and hear that music go, dun, and you could just feel the room rumble. You can't get that. I don't care how good your theater system is. You can't get that at the house. So you lose that experience. What I hope happens from this is what you were talking about, Lauren, like with these budgets, maybe they'll be more conscious of how much they're spending and we'll get smaller films. Maybe we can go back to the days where we can get movies like RoboCop, Aliens, Speed, which I didn't even realize those are not big movies. Aliens is not well, Lauren, I know Aliens, but
I still think they spend too much.
Yeah, but even like Speed and RoboCop, those are not big films. When I listen to the commentaries, those are small films, but they took what they had, crafted really good genre pictures, and they put them out in these theaters. And I kind of hope they can go back to where they're not spending as much, and they're more conscious of the story and just not a product, But unfortunately, the flip side of it is, I mean, are people going to go out and see this stuff if it doesn't have a name on it? So it's I really hope movie theaters don't go away because it just really just makes me sad, But it looks like it might be happening.
Guys, we've got somebody who's about to join us, and he looks like a sketchy fella. His name's Ricky. Oh my God! Hello.
There's the man.
Yeah!
He's in the house.
No, Monty, please. I'm outside, so I don't have these nice backgrounds you guys have. No, I was listening to you. You're right. You know what I think on this subject, and it's not much because I'm out here and it's all shut down on here in LA. But I think that this COVID has accelerated the inevitable by at least 15 or 20 years. I think that what we could see down the road pre-COVID of what might be happening in the realm of theater, and it's just accelerated to the point where will they still be around in 5 years? And with the what they're doing with television nowadays, and as you guys said, all the actors are moving over there, and the technology. The things I care about, it's because I'm older than all you folks, but it's all disappear. I think there's an inevitability that's been jacked forward, a decade or two since COVID. This is the Region Free debut, so I thought, and of course, Justin puts Ricky on that. I'm Ricky, so you.
Not produced for children.
But thank you for joining us on this very auspicious occasion.
No, it's very. I'm crashing your party because I know that I don't have any knowledge in the areas you were speaking of, but thanks anyway. I won't really take up any of your time because as soon as I run out of daylight, it's over for me. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. Other than I agree with what you were going with the flow on this is like what are we going to have in 5 or 10 years or even a couple years, and what are cities doing? Cities that are with broadband, you can be in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa and run your business and sell your wares through out of a garage if you wanted to. So it's going to change. A lot of things are changing. So
yeah. I think it's just funny that we've like gone back in time. Drive-ins are popular again. Nobody's going to the movies. I do intend to go watch a theater near me. They're doing Friday the 13th sometime in October. I do want to go watch that, and I'm sure I'll probably be alone. I'm probably not alone, but I don't know if movie theaters will ever go back to where they were, because they've already said all the losses that we've accrued this year are going right. We're taking them right out of people's pockets. They're going to, our audience are going to have to pay. So how much more are we going to have to pay for the going to the movies? We're already paying out our butts to begin with. How much higher can it be before it's just not worth it? Where you take that, okay, so I've got a smaller screen here. I don't have a surround sound setup, but it's cheaper just to stream it here, and I'm in the comfort of my own home. I can sit here in my underwear and, drink a Cobra premium 40-ounce malt liquor and, pick my belly button all day. That's, So, I mean...
Thanks for that while I was taking a sip of beer.
And that's a visual that will stick.
Yeah.
Not just, anybody. You can do whatever you want. You're in the privacy of your own home. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know, man. It's weird. We've gone back in time. And I don't think that if the theaters think that they're just going to jack up the prices and recoup all this money that they've lost in a year or two, when everything is if there's whatever the new normal is, they're so wrong. The mom and pop places are done. Well, and the only way that the big theater chains are going to survive is by offering us a premium experience, and they're going to have to cut costs. Period.
Yeah.
The real answer, like any business, is to get your supply at a lower price. Because what causes all the price increases for the exhibitors is the fact that on opening weekend of any major film, they're giving 90% of the ticket back to the distributor. Whereas if We'll Go USA, when they put Peninsula out, it was more like a 50-50 split. So on the same per ticket, they were making as much as they would make with 5 people walking through the door. So that is how we get out of this without gouging to the point where no one is willing to actually show up at the movies. But that's going to take some boldness on the place of business people to support smaller product and to give it, the trailer placement in front of the movies, where in the past that was all a handshake agreement with the major studios. There's going to be a lot involved, but it's the only long-term path to survive, I think.
But trust me, I would much rather go to the theater to watch a movie like The Wretched or what was the Black Waters Abyss, some of the smaller stuff that is making its way into theaters now
Yep.
than another Fast and Freaking Furious or another.
That's actually the name of the next one too.
I'm sure, yeah. Fast and Freaking Furious.
And they'll find some way to spell it with letters and numbers mixed.
Yeah. If we can again show me those little films in the theater that otherwise would never get a theatrical run, I'm all for that.
Well, Relic went from the planned release on that film was 8 screens in America, and it hit every drive-in in America because of what happened. So you're seeing a shift. The major studios, the major distributors are going to need to figure out what the math looks like, how much you can make movies for, how to play ball with the theater chains if they want to have partners. And keep in mind, again, if they decide to cut out the partners, it's just going to cause production companies to bypass them. So that's not a winning strategy for anyone.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from you, Raiho.
I live in, fortunately for me, I live in one of the safest places in the world right now. Nova Scotia is just, we don't have any cases in the Atlantic Canada region very often, and it's a pretty safe spot. Even then, though, the theaters are very tepid. They have weird hours. They only open on the weekends, things like that. So everyone's still trying to, feel the whole thing out. One thing that kills me about the whole thing is just the social aspect of it, like getting to actually go out and see people and all that stuff. It's like, I feel like on the one side, people will still want that. There's going to be lots of people that still just want to go out to the movies. It's something to do when you're a teenager. You can go out and get out of the house for a couple hours. So I think that that's still there, but I just worry, like we talked about, that these smaller theaters. I have a theater very close to me that's very small. I don't see it making it through this. So I'm going to have to drive a half hour to get to the theater just to see a movie, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Unfortunately for me, like I have 3 little kids. I haven't been going to the theaters very much in the last couple of years anyway. So I'm going to end up not getting to go to the movies and then not getting to go anymore because they're not going to be open, which kind of sucks. There were some production companies that started testing the waters with this way before this. I know Carol Co tried to come back and they were like, we're going to make some movies at some budget prices. We're going to have some dramas. We're going to have some of this, that, and the other thing. And that ended up not happening. I think they made a couple of pictures and they fizzled out again. But that's what I want to see anyway. So that would be wonderful. I have to say, I love the mask.
The mask.
Look at that region-free mask that you can
Nice.
buy.
Beautiful. you can buy that region-free mask and a variety
And
of different
t-shirts.
region-free shirts in my T Public store.
We are such corporate whores now.
Listen. These shirts are some of the greatest shirts
That's how I get my beer money.
ever. And I mean, those masks, let me tell you, those masks will stop a bullet. Don't try it, but they'll stop a bullet. All right. I'm putting the link in this. That's
Where's
the
the
wrong
asterisk at the bottom there? Will
And-
mess up.
As long as you wear one of these shirts properly, you will get laid.
Now
Oh,
that's
exactly.
that's a promise.
That's a fact.
That's
a
a
promise.
promise. We stand by that.
Jamie, do you have any thoughts on the future of the math of Hollywood?
I don't like acceptance. I like to have a positive attitude, and I live in a very small town. My theater is never really full, never really was full. I mean, maybe when we were back in the 80s, it would be full, but now it's usually about 3/4 full when there's a big movie playing. The thought of it going away just it makes me so depressed and so sad, because what else are kids around here going to do?
Drugs.
Yeah, that's what I worry about. I live in a small college town, and there's one bowling alley, there's a couple movie theaters, and that's about it. There's some skiing nearby.
Let's go get high.
So it's boring here, and I really don't want the theater to go away. So people, I know that it's hard, but you got to go out there, put your mask on, go out there, get in the theater, sit 6 feet from people, away from people, but go, because otherwise we're going to lose it. And none of us want to lose it. And I know we're supposed to adapt and all that, and that's fine. We will, but it's going to take time. So in the meantime, go to the drive-in, go to the theater, do what you can to support the genres and the system.
I've actually never been to a drive-in before.
What?
Really?
They all
Wow.
closed down.
Either.
This
Yeah,
year
they
was the
closed
first for
down.
me, and now I've been to quite a lot.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
I mean, they just don't exist around here. I don't know why, but there was one, but it closed down before I was going to movies.
The nearest one to
Literally.
me now is too far away for me to go. But when I was a kid, we had one right in our town, and I went to so many movies at the drive-in. I absolutely loved it. I miss it really. And-
If that's what's coming, I'm cool with that. If that's what has to happen, I mean, for people to feel safe, that's fine with me too.
We at one time had like 6 drive-ins around here, and literally my entire childhood it revolved around, going to these drive-ins in the summer, especially. It was big. It was a big deal. They had a playground. All us kids would go play. My dad and my stepmom would bring like lawn chairs, and people would bring pizza. It was
Oh man.
an experience. It's an experience. It's not the same as the theater experience. The theater experience is something unique in itself, but a drive-in experience is totally different, and I really don't want to lose either.
I think the cool part is the energy that you feel like when that's the part that I miss about it is the energy that you feel of all the people, like especially like when you're at the drive-in, especially when it's like during the summertime, you can feel the bugs, you can smell the popcorn, you can smell everything that people bring to the drive-in. You
Yeah.
guys know what I'm talking about.
Bugs sounds great.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh y'all. Oh, it's a great time.
Now I'm gonna get West Nile virus.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, man.
You haven't quite seen any movie. You haven't quite seen any movie until you've been hit with a frisbee during a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We all used to bring like Windex and then pass it from car to car, so everybody could clean their windows off really well. And it was something I'm never going to forget, and I hope that kids today can maybe experience that and relive the joys that I did as a child.
Watch or be punished.